I think we're in this kind of amazing age of storytelling in general, where brands have this opportunity to figure out, we're moving past the intrusive, interruptive model of advertising, and brands have to figure out what stories do I have to tell that are worthy of an audience's time. But then the next step, which gets tricky, is what are the best places and ways to tell them. And I think as much as brands would have loved the idea that I can, film something once or create something once and then chop it up and put it across multiple platforms, you just can't. You have to understand, what platforms people are using for what reason. Someone comes to Snapchat for a very different reason. They go to Facebook for a very different reason. They're watching a television show. And so you really have to think about what is the user coming to this platform for, and then what's the best way to tell that story in that platform. So there are some efficiencies. You can kind of, if you think about brand journalism using a journalism headset, you can report, quote unquote, a story once and then figure out the different ways to tell it. But you can't just kind of take one thing, create it, and then slice it up and run it in multiple places. So a lot of brands get a little nervous about what does that mean for how much I have to create, what does that mean for my ability to scale it, but it's not as intimidating once you actually kind of embrace it as it might seem to be.
And Scott, you've been immersed in content creation, branded content or bespoke or native advertising, whatever we can call it, for quite a while. What's the state of things now? And there, in terms of both the creative part and in terms of earned and paid and who watches it, ROI. Give us sort of a little bit of an update.
Yeah, I think the key kind of development, if you will, in the branded content space, or whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of terrible names for it, but we all know kind of what it means, is that it's kind of moved from a nice to have to a must have for brands. I think they recognize that it's no longer kind of this experimental thing you dip your toe in, but that it really is the future of marketing. And all that means is that in a world where brands can easily interrupt your behaviors and throw ads at you that you don't want, they have to find the things they have to say that you will choose to spend time with. And now brands have really embraced that, they understand it. And the next step is figuring out how much to invest, how to measure return on investment against the spending that you're doing in that field, what are the best ways to do it. But I think the good news is we probably don't have a client who in the last 18 months hasn't asked us to create a content strategy, hasn't asked us to help figure out what stories they have to tell that people will choose to spend time with, and that are beginning to create it in big ways. We're also starting to see a lot of brands like Mattel and Pepsi and Marriott follow in the heels of brands like Red Bull and GE and become really deeply committed to this idea of storytelling and really investing heavily in it. And I think that's just going to continue.
Very good. And Scott, we have a big show coming up in May. The NewFronts. Give us a little bit of a preview of what you're doing and what you hope the NewFronts means this year.
Sure. Well, as you know, Andy, Digitas actually started the NewFronts 10 years ago, and it's amazing to think that it's been that long. And at the time, it was a half day of us bringing our clients together to basically say, hey, there's a lot going on in digital content that you're not paying enough attention to. So before you go into the TV upfronts and just throw all your budgets that way, stop and take a look at what's happening in digital content. That was 10 years ago. At this point now, we've gone from that half-day Digitas-only event into a 2-week, multi-billion-dollar marketplace where every major digital player is out there, being a part of that conversation. What's really cool for Digitas is we're still the only agency involved. We're the only agency that's on the board that puts on a NewFront event. And so what we're doing is we're not pitching to clients in our event, but we're doing thought leadership. And it's a great chance in the middle of all of these companies, these publishers coming in and selling their wares. We're kind of look at our event as a place where you stop and you get some context on, what are the important trends right now in content marketing? Who are the cool players? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? What are the tension points? And how do we resolve them? So we're really about taking this idea of this content marketplace and putting some context around it for our clients.